Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive here on the Uncanny Valley podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into, well, a truly iconic piece of literature. I mean, this thing has shaped our understanding of horror, of the supernatural, for well over a century now.
It really has. It's foundational.
We're heading straight into the inexplicable, that zone where the familiar just twists into something.
Yeah.
Terrifyingly unfamiliar.
Absolutely. And we're not just, skimming a book summary here. We're exploring the very foundations of a mythos, one that, frankly, still echoes in our collective imagination today.
Mm-hmm.
Our source material for this deep dive is, of course, Bram Stoker's classic, Dracula. And we're using meticulously selected excerpts, specifically from the Project Gutenberg ebook version that one was last updated November 12th, 2023.
Right, and it's not just a straightforward story, is it?
Yeah.
That's what hits me immediately. The way Stoker tells it is so fragmented.
Yes, the epistolary format.
Yeah, exactly. We've essentially got this fascinating stack of sources, notes, journals, letters. They're raw, unfiltered accounts, right from the characters themselves.
You're peeking into their private thoughts.
You really are. Their fears, their dawning, frankly, terrifying realizations as everything unfolds around them. It's not just a stylistic thing, is it? This format, it throws us right into their subjective reality.
Oh, completely. We're not detached observers.
No, we're almost like co-conspirators,
Yeah.
sifting through this raw fear, these fragmented truths. And because there's no all-knowing narrator.
It amplifies the terror massively.
Yeah, because like the characters, we're the ones slowly piecing together this horrifying reality. It mirrors their own dawning, painful understanding.
Precisely. And our mission today really is to pull out the most potent insights from these firsthand accounts. We want to uncover how this seemingly rational world, late 19th century, grapples with something utterly irrational. And how that confrontation just systematically shapes the protagonists. We'll be focusing on that progression, from initial disbelief, maybe scientific confusion,
Right.
to this terrifying, undeniable acceptance of the supernatural. It's about how these characters slowly and awfully painfully step right into, well, the uncanny.
And just quickly, for anyone new joining us, the Uncanny Valley podcast,
Yeah.
we use uncanny not just to mean like spooky or weird.
Right. It's more specific.
Yeah, it's that precise psychological sense, that deeply unsettling feeling when something that should be familiar, maybe human or natural, gets subtly twisted. It becomes horrifyingly unfamiliar or even inhuman. And Dracula, it's a masterclass in exactly that.
Absolutely textbook.
So just hearing the title Dracula and knowing it's told through these personal documents, what stands out to you right away? For me, it's just the sheer scope built from these intimate broken pieces. It really builds this mosaic of dread.
It does. The intimacy combined with the scale is remarkable.
Wait, let's unpack this. Let's start at the beginning with Jonathan Harker's journey. Jonathan Harker's perilous journey to Transylvania. So our journey kicks off with Jonathan Harker. He's a young English solicitor, seems perfectly normal, and he's starting what he thinks is just a straightforward business trip, going to a pretty unfamiliar corner of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And he meticulously records everything. At first, it's quite, mundane stuff, isn't it? He notes traveling over the Danube, stopping in Klausenberg. He even tries a local dish, paprika hendel.
Right. He notes it's very good but thirsty.
Yeah. And he even makes a little memo, a mem, get recipe for Mina, his fiancée. That little detail, it grounds us so firmly in his initial normalcy, doesn't it? It emphasizes his almost like touristy perspective before it all goes wrong.
It's a deliberate anchor. Stoker plants him firmly in the utterly predictable, empirical world of late Victorian England. This meticulous detail, it isn't just charming color. It's a deliberate narrative choice. It makes the later invasion of the irrational, of the uncanny, that feeling where the familiar twists into something terrifyingly wrong, all the more disorienting. For Jonathan and for us.
His whole orderly world is about to get dismantled.
Systematically. So he's off to Transylvania, a region he learns is one of the wildest and least known portions of Europe, tucked away in the Carpathian Mountains. And significantly, he points out he couldn't find any map or work giving the exact locality of the Castle Dracula.
Straight away, that tells you something's off.
Immediately, it establishes the Count's place as remote, mysterious, maybe even existing beyond normal maps, beyond modern knowledge. Hints at something hidden, maybe even extra-dimensional.
That really sets a tone, that otherness. And Jonathan, being, the diligent guy he is, he digs into the local demographics, notes 4 distinct nationalities there.
Yes.
Saxons, Wallachs, who he says are descendants of Dacians,
Right.
Magyars, and Seklis. And he specifies he's going among the Sekleys, who apparently claim to be descended from Attila and the Huns.
Which he finds plausible. He notes that when the Magyars conquered the area way back, they found Huns already settled there.
Yeah. And then comes this bit that just gives you chills. He reads that every known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the center of some sort of, and then he just stops. The thought trails off.
That unfinished thought. It's such a crucial signal. Stoker uses it brilliantly. He's letting Jonathan, this man of empirical observation, this product of the scientific 19th century,
Right.
he's letting him sense this overwhelming, inexplicable concentration of the supernatural. It's a huge psychological moment. His rational mind is hitting a wall.
And the history bit, connecting the Sekleys to Attila.
That provides this profound backdrop. It suggests an ancient, really formidable power lurking in the Count's lineage, something that predates the modern world, roots him in this violent, almost mythical past. That connection, that ancient primal power, is part of what makes the setting so genuinely uncanny. It implies this historical continuity of brutality that just defies modern sensibilities.
So, as Jonathan gets closer, he approaches Bistritz, the town the Count named. The atmosphere gets even thicker. He calls it a very interesting old place, but one with a stormy existence. Talks about great fires causing terrible havoc 5 times, and a devastating siege back in the 17th century costing 13,000 lives. It's a place just soaked in tragedy.
Steeped in violence.
Yeah. And then he gets that welcome letter from Count Dracula. Chillingly precise. It anticipates his exact arrival time, his location at the Borgo Pass. The Count actually writes, "At 3 tomorrow the diligence will start for Bukovina. A place on it is kept for you. At the Borgo Pass my carriage will await you." What does that preternatural knowledge tell us right from the start?
Well, it's crucial. The Count, knowing Jonathan's schedule down to the hour, combined with Bistritz's violent history, it creates this pervasive sense of being watched, controlled. This subtle manipulation starts way before they even meet. It implies a power beyond normal human awareness, maybe even a kind of temporal awareness. It immediately sets the Count apart as something. While not bound by normal limits, it signals his uncanny reach before he's even physically present. That level of foreknowledge is deeply, deeply unsettling.
But the journey continues into the Borgo Pass. Jonathan notes the mountains seem to frown down upon us. Classic Gothic touch. He sees the local people, Czechs and Slovaks, notes their picturesque attire, but then contrasts it sharply with the painfully prevalent goiter he sees among them. A subtle sign of hardship, maybe isolation?
Could be, and reinforces the otherness of the place.
He also sees lots of roadside crosses. And his traveling companions, the local peasants, they keep crossing themselves. Intense devotions, like they're constantly warding something off, something unseen, a real contrast to his, more secular British background.
And these details, they subtly reinforce those deep religious and superstitious undercurrents in the region. They hint at this ongoing, almost constant battle between spiritual forces and the physical world.
Right.
The visible signs of hardship, like the goiter and that fervent, almost constant display of faith, it emphasizes a reality so different from Jonathan's rational London. It's a world where the spiritual is just deeply woven into daily life. It prepares us and Jonathan for what's coming. It underscores how the locals are intimately aware of and constantly defending against unseen malevolence.
And then the really uncanny happens. Jonathan sees a faint, flickering blue flame in the dark. The driver immediately stops the coach, jumps down, vanishes into the night, comes back later. He sees this happen several times. And the cast later explains, these flames appear over buried treasure on a certain night of the year, when all evil spirits are supposed to have unchecked sway. He says they mark old battlefields enriched by the blood of men. This is more than just a weird light, isn't it?
Oh, it's a profound shift in Jonathan's reality. That explanation bridges the gap between ancient folklore and something tangible, something happening now.
Yeah.
The blue flames aren't just, swamp gas. They're undeniable supernatural indicators directly linking the land's violent past to spectral activity. The Count even says, hardly a foot of soil in all this region that has not been enriched by the blood of men, patriots, or invaders.
Chilling line.
It is. And this moment is such a powerful first hint of the supernatural's undeniable presence in Jonathan's empirical world. It really pushes him into the uncanny. It's the first concrete sign that the world operates differently here, that the veil between reality and legend is paper thin. Jonathan's forced to confront the impossible.
And as this is happening, the howling of wolves gets closer. Jonathan knows his horses are terrified, sharing his fear, trembling, but the driver, he remains not in the least disturbed.
That contrast is chilling. The animal fear versus the human or perhaps unhuman calm.
Exactly. And then, when the coach finally stops, Jonathan notes the driver's prodigious strength. His hand feels like a steel vise. And he notices this same immense strength in the Count's handshake when he arrives at the castle, which leads Jonathan to doubt if it were not the same person. That's not just incidental, is it?
Not at all. It plants a vital seed of suspicion in Jonathan's mind and in ours.
Yeah.
That shared unnatural strength strongly implies a connection between the driver and the Count. It hints that the Count has agents, or maybe he can even manifest in multiple forms. Shape-shifting, perhaps.
Wow.
The whole atmosphere shifts then, doesn't it? From just strange to truly dreadful. It initiates Jonathan's personal, deeply unsettling experience of the uncanny, where identity itself starts to feel fluid and terrifying. It's the moment Jonathan truly begins to question the very fabric of reality, finding it fraying at the edges. Life and fear inside Castle Dracula.
Okay, so Jonathan's been thoroughly immersed in this strange, foreboding atmosphere. His rational mind is already starting to wobble. But the real, inescapable horror of the uncanny that truly begins inside Castle Dracula, doesn't it? Where the walls themselves seem to breathe dread.
Yes, the isolation becomes absolute there.
He describes its desolate grandeur, broken walls, many shadows, wind breathing cold through the broken battlements and casements. But then there's the Count himself, initially courteous.
Deceptively so.
Right, showing deep interest in England, even studying Bradshaw's Guide, a very practical modern travel guide. And he says he wants to learn English intonation, wants to avoid being known as a stranger when he gets there.
And this is where the Count proves he's far more complex, far more dangerous than just some feral creature of the night. His desire for assimilation, to be indistinguishable in London, reveals this calculated cunning. It goes way beyond brute force.
He's intelligent.
Very intelligent, adaptable, a meticulous planner. Using books to understand a new culture, master its intricacies. That intellectual aspect, that methodical preparation, makes him genuinely terrifying. It taps right into those deep Victorian anxieties about clever, adaptable outsiders infiltrating society. You know, the fear of the unknown dressed up in familiar clothes.
It's the uncanny writ large.
Yeah.
Something ancient and monstrous, perfectly mimicking humanity.
Exactly.
But that polite facade, it cracks pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Exposing the real horror underneath. Jonathan observes the Count's protuberant teeth.
Subtle hints start dropping.
Then there's that truly shocking moment. Jonathan's shaving accidentally cuts himself. The Count reacts violently to the sight of blood and the crucifix around Jonathan's neck. He recoils with a horrible feeling of nausea, a grim sort of smile, which showed more than he'd yet done his protuberant teeth.
A real mask-off moment.
Completely. Then the Count grabs the shaving mirror, calls it a foul bauble of man's vanity, and with one wrench of his terrible hand, flings it out the window. Jonathan notes it would fall 1,000 feet from the castle's edge. That's quite the reaction.
It's an immediate, visceral revelation of the Count's true nature and his vulnerabilities, his violent aversion to mirrors, to religious symbols, classic vampire traits, right? But here it's infused with this primal theory that feels deeply personal, almost a reflex.
Yeah.
And that detail, the 1,000-foot drop, it just emphasizes Jonathan's extreme isolation, the inescapable nature of his situation. The mirror, a tool of self-reflection, of reality, is violently destroyed. It symbolizes the Count's rejection of human reality and vanity. That swift change from polite host to furious supernatural being is such a powerful example of the uncanny. The human disguise is violently shed, revealing something monstrous, utterly alien.
Jonathan's isolation just deepens after that. He writes with real despair, "I fear I am myself the only living soul within the place." And it's not just physical loneliness, is it? It's spiritual, psychological isolation.
Totally cut off.
He soon finds out his letters are being intercepted. All his paper, his notes, mysteriously vanish, severing his ties to the outside world, his ability to even document what's happening. And later, desperate, trying to escape, he sees the Count, crawling lizard fashion, face down the sheer castle walls, his cloak spreading like great wings. That just defies all natural law.
It's a chilling detail. It deeply violates Jonathan's understanding of, well, everything. Physics, biology,
Right.
the Count scaling walls like a lizard face down. It's another physical manifestation of his non-human nature. It deepens that sense of uncanny dread, defies gravity, normal anatomy, underscores his utter otherness. And Jonathan's growing despair, it highlights that profound psychological toll of being trapped. The slow, terrifying realization that his captor is something completely beyond his previous understanding of life. A creature operating by entirely different, horrifying rules.
And the Count, he's not exactly shy about his nature, is he? He proudly boasts about his heritage, claims descent from Attila and the Huns, emphasizes his Dracula blood as a conquering race that drove back invaders, Magyars, Lombards, Avars, Bulgars, Turks. He sees himself as a natural master. What's this obsession with lineage telling us?
Well, this deep dive into his historical pride, it's way more than just backstory. It reveals the very source of his immense arrogance, his relentless drive for dominance.
Oh, yeah.
He genuinely sees himself as above common humanity, a living embodiment of ancient power, of conquest, and he uses that to justify his predatory nature, his chilling ambition to set up a new dominion in London. That sense of ancient, unyielding power, rooted in this brutal history of bloodshed and mastery, it's crucial to understanding the scale of the threat he poses. It's a whole philosophy of inherent superiority fueling his monstrous actions. He's not just a creature, he's a malevolent force of historical destiny. The horrors unveiled, the three vampire women.
Okay, maybe one of the most flat-out terrifying episodes in Jonathan's journal involves his encounter with three women. They appear in his room at night, seeming to just materialize from the shadows.
Yes, this is deeply unsettling.
He describes two as dark, with high aquiline noses like the Count, and great dark piercing eyes that seem to be almost red. The third was fair as can be, with great wavy masses of golden hair and eyes like pale sapphires. But the really unnerving part, all three had brilliant white teeth. How does Stoker make them both alluring and just deeply disturbing at the same time?
It's a masterclass in creating the uncanny. Their appearance is deliberately both alluring and deeply unsettling. It's a clear visual cue of their vampiric predatory nature. The juxtaposition of their striking beauty, described with such, enticing detail, against those piercing eyes and brilliant white teeth, it creates an immediate sense of dread, a feeling of perverse attraction mixed with imminent danger. And that dreamy fear Jonathan feels looking at the fair one. It suggests his subconscious is screaming danger, even before his conscious mind fully gets it. They are this terrifying manifestation of the uncanny, beautiful, yet fundamentally wrong, promising both ecstasy and death.
And just as one of them leans in, ready to bite his throat, the Count suddenly appears. Enraged, he declares, "This man belongs to me. Beware how you meddle with him or you'll have to deal with me."
A possessive fury.
Totally. And the fair girl responds with this ribald coquetry, saying, "You yourself never loved, you never love," which is followed by this truly chilling, mirthless, hard, soulless laughter from the other women. That interaction between them, it's fascinatingly dark.
It's profoundly disturbing. The Count's intervention isn't about protecting Jonathan. It's a brutal, possessive assertion of ownership.
Yeah, this man belongs to me.
Exactly. It highlights his supreme authority over these creatures and his own monstrous, deeply personal plans for Jonathan. And the women's response, especially that taunt about the Count never loving, it adds this layer of ancient, bitter history to their existence. Hints at a lost humanity, maybe, or just a primal emptiness within the Count himself.
And that laughter.
Oh, the mirthless, hard, soulless laughter. It just strips them of any lingering humanity, emphasizes their utterly predatory, unfeeling nature. It's the sound of pure, unadulterated evil, devoid of warmth, of empathy. It resonates with this terrifying emptiness.
Then the Count throws the women a moving bag. Jonathan hears a gasp and a low wail as of a half-smothered child coming from it. The women disappear, seeming to fade into the rays of the moonlight and pass out through the window, leaving Jonathan just aghast with horror.
Yeah.
Stoker doesn't explicitly show what happens, but the implication.
It's absolutely horrifying because of what's not shown. This is a masterstroke of Gothic horror. The unspeakable is far more terrifying than the explicitly seen. Stoker implies the horrific act, leaving that moving bag and the child's desperate wail to force us to fill in the horrifying blanks. Combine that with their spectral, inhuman disappearance. It leaves this lasting psychological scar. And Jonathan's confusion when he wakes up later, wondering if it was all a dream, that reflects the profound psychological disorientation of these uncanny encounters. It blurs the lines between nightmare and reality, eroding his grasp on what's real, Lucy Westenra's decline, and the arrival of Van Helsing.
Okay, so as Jonathan's personal nightmare is spiraling deeper inside the castle walls, Stoker brilliantly shifts our perspective. Back across the continent, in seemingly serene, modern England, the first subtle ripples of the Count's evil start to emerge, touching lives like Lucy Weston Ross.
Right, the contrast is stark.
She's presented as this charming young woman, three devoted suitors, the Honorable Arthur Holmwood, the steady Dr. John Seward, the adventurous American Quincy P. Morris, and her endearing, almost naive thought about wishing she could marry three men. It just highlights her innocent, loving nature, which makes what follows even more tragic.
Absolutely. That initial glimpse of Lucy's character makes her suffering so much more poignant. Her openness, her warmth, her sheer youthfulness, they stand in such stark contrast to the darkness about to engulf her. Stoker's building our emotional investment in her fate, preparing us for the horror of her transformation. She represents that Victorian ideal of womanhood, pure, innocent, beautiful, making her corruption utterly harrowing.
Then the narrative shifts dramatically. The violent storm, the eerie supernatural arrival of that ship, the Demeter in Whitby, sails into the harbor, unsteered save by the hand of a dead man.
Chilling image, the captain lashed to the helm, crucifix and beads entwined in his hands.
Yeah, and this fierce, powerful dog lands from the ship, vanishes.
Yeah.
Only for a local mastiff to be found dead soon after, its throat torn away and its belly slit open as if with a savage claw. This is the Count's grand entrance into England, isn't it? Violent, highly symbolic.
It absolutely is. The dead captain, the ghost ship. It immediately signals profound supernatural intervention, shatters any sense of normalcy, and the brutal, visceral death of the dog, blamed on a savage opponent, provides tangible, undeniable evidence of the monstrous presence now on English soil. It brutally bridges that gap between myth and reality for the unsuspecting public. The uncanny has made landfall. It shows its ability to not just affect individuals, but to infiltrate and terrorize whole communities, leaving death and terror behind.
And the chilling details just keep coming with the discovery of the ship's logbook. Read later, it details the crew's growing panic, sheer terror as men disappear one by one, until the last survivor deliberately throws himself into the sea to escape whatever's on board. That logbook serves a crucial narrative purpose, doesn't it?
It provides a terrifying first-hand account of the Count's predatory nature at sea. It shows his methodical, horrifying hunting process, the overwhelming terror he instills, and it directly foreshadows the creeping, insidious horror that's about to consume Lucy. Paints this vivid picture of a relentless, unseen force, leaves no doubt about the monstrous cargo that's now arrived.
Soon after the Demeter's arrival, Lucy's health starts to mysteriously decline. She gets restless, suffers sleepwalking episodes, apparently a habit she had before.
A vulnerability.
During one episode, Mina finds her in the churchyard. Mina observes something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone and bent over it. Lucy soon shows those classic debilitating symptoms: extreme paleness, throat pain, a bloodless look, difficulty breathing. She even murmurs, "His red eyes again. They are just the same," confirming a specific, terrifying visitor.
These are the classic, unmistakable symptoms of vampirism. Her sleepwalking, that pre-existing condition, becomes the unfortunate gateway for the Count's repeated, insidious attacks. A vulnerability exploited by the darkness. Mina's fleeting glimpse of that something dark confirms the entity's presence, even as she, like everyone else, struggles to comprehend it. And that chilling mention of red eyes, it's a direct, undeniable link to the Count. Establishes him as the clear, malevolent source of Lucy's terrifying illness. It's the visual confirmation of the uncanny, the impossible now made manifest.
Dr. Seward, her suitor and doctor, is baffled. He calls in his old professor, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing. Described as really clever and absolutely imperturbable, Van Helsing examines her, notes the bloodless state despite normal blood analysis, which leads him to conclude the cause must be something mental, as he can't find a physical reason. Seems like a misdiagnosis, but it's actually quite insightful in context, isn't it?
It's brilliantly insightful. Van Helsing represents that fusion of rigorous science with remarkable intellectual open-mindedness, a crucial trait when facing the uncanny. His inability to find purely physical cause for her anemia, despite her seemingly good blood quality, is a critical turning point. It forces him, and implicitly Seward, to look beyond conventional medicine. His conclusion of a mental cause, while maybe seeming like a miss to a lesser mind, shrewdly opens the door to considering phenomena outside known medical understanding. He's laying the groundwork for accepting the supernatural, for understanding that some threats just defy simple empirical explanation. It's the first step in bridging that gap between rational thought and the horrifying truth.
Despite multiple blood transfusions, a really desperate measure from Arthur, Seward, Van Helsing, Quincy Morris, Lucy just keeps getting weaker.
The science isn't working.
No. Van Helsing tries traditional wards against evil, puts garlic flowers around her room, gives her a crucifix, and Lucy, chillingly, finds the garlic delightful and notes the crucifix has peace in its smell. That last detail is profoundly unsettling.
Indeed. The repeated transfusions highlight the immense physical and emotional cost to her loved ones. But they also demonstrate the utter inadequacy of purely scientific, material solutions against this kind of supernatural threat. And Lucy's positive, almost serene reaction to the garlic. It's deeply unsettling. It suggests this perverse, corrupting influence is already at work, twisting even the protective measures. It's part of the uncanny, where things are just wrong, protective symbols embraced by the victim. Shows the deep perversion of her nature, the insidious corruption.
Tragically, Lucy's elderly mother, who has a severe heart condition, dies of shock. A wolf crashes through Lucy's window, another sign of the Count's influence over animals, and the shock kills her mother. Lucy's final decline is rapid after that. She transforms into something terrifying.
The mother's death, a direct result of that wolf attack, underscores the devastating ripple effect of the Count's evil. It highlights how his actions don't just drain life from his immediate victims, but shatter the lives connected to them. It's a brutal demonstration that his evil spreads beyond the bite, impacting whole families, breaking down the safety of home, turning it into a place of terror. The asylum, Renfield, and the unsettling link.
Okay, so parallel to Lucy's horrific decline, Dr. Seward's phonograph diary gives us another crucial and, frankly, disturbing perspective, especially through his weirdest patient, Renfield.
Ah, Renfield.
Yes, Seward diagnoses him as a zoophagous, life-eating maniac. He's obsessed with absorbing as many lives as he can.
Right.
He eats flies, then spiders, then sparrows, and his eager, almost predatory request for a kitten to play with and teach and feed and feed and feed. That's particularly unsettling. What's Stoker showing us with Renfield's grotesque compulsion?
Renfield's compulsion is this grotesque, disturbing mimicry of the vampire's own life-draining need. It's a warped reflection of the Count's essential nature.
Like a dark mirror.
Exactly. His dietary progression flies to sparrows, wanting a cat, consuming his previous pets. It mirrors that increasing scale of consumption, of hunger. It's a terrifying, though indirect, illustration of the Count's methods, his insatiable desires. Renfield represents the human mind corrupted, echoing the Count's predatory instincts in this horrifying, visceral way, highlights the psychological infection of Dracula's presence.
And Renfield's behavior seems directly linked to the Count's movements, doesn't it? He acts like a bizarre, almost prophetic index to the vampire's presence.
He does.
He keeps trying to escape towards Carfax, that deserted house next door, the Count's London base, always muttering about his master, acting incredibly agitated when the Count is near. It looks like madness, but it's actually providing vital clues, isn't it?
Exactly. Renfield, in his madness, serves as an early, though unreliable, indicator of the Count's activities. His madness isn't random. It seems to be this corrupted sensitivity to the vampire's presence, highlights the pervasive, unseen influence of the undead. And his fixation on the chapel door at Carfax, where the earth boxes were delivered. That confirms its significance as the Count's hidden lair. A key piece of info for the hunters later. He's a terrifying example of the uncanny influencing a human mind, turning a patient into a sort of barometer for supernatural evil.
But Renfield also has these moments of shocking lucidity. He pleads with Seward to be freed, insists he's sane and earnest now, says he's fighting for his soul.
Brief moments of clarity.
Yeah, but then the madness crashes back in, often violently, like when he prays for a cat, but then in the same breath tries to tear my throat out with his teeth. He talks about dreading being burdened with the soul of anything, but also feels sure he'll acquire some higher life. This back and forth is truly chilling.
That terrifying oscillation between sanity and violent mania reveals the profound psychological torment inflicted by the Count's presence, his influence. Renfield's fragmented thoughts hint at some kind of perverse bargain.
You think?
Maybe he seeks to absorb life, possibly at the Count's bidding, to achieve this higher life for himself. But he dreads the burden of a soul that would presumably complicate his unholy transformation into something like the Count. It's a key insight into the Count's manipulative powers. He preys not just on bodies, but on minds, twists desires, twists sanity, offers this perverted form of immortality, but at the cost of your very essence.
And then, in a final horrifying confession just before he dies, Renfield describes the Count appearing to him solid then, not a ghost, with a fierce, Red mouth, the sharp white teeth glinted in the moonlight.
Vivid, terrifying details.
He reveals the Count promised him hundreds, thousands, millions of lives, through rats, dogs, even big moths in the night with skull and crossbones on their backs, which Van Helsing identifies as the death's head mock, such an iconic, disturbing image.
Truly gothic.
Renfield's last words describe the Count beckoning him to the window, summoning this dark mass spread over the grass, like the shape of a flame of fire, hordes of animals under his command.
Renfield's deathbed testimony is chilling, undeniable confirmation of the Count's physical presence, his absolute control over animals, his malevolent ability to grant these perverted desires. That detail of the death's head moth brings that iconic, disturbing image right to the forefront, solidifies the terrifying nature of the vampire's influence, his power to twist nature to his will, conjure the uncanny from the natural world.
And his injuries.
Yes, described as if he'd been beaten against the floor. Hints at the Count's brutal interaction with him, silencing his unwitting prophet just as he was about to reveal too much. That whole sequence is profoundly uncanny. A human corrupted into this distorted mirror of the supernatural, then just brutally disposed of. The undead Lucy and the consecration of the Hunter's Pact.
Okay, the deepest horror, for me anyway, comes after Lucy's burial. This is when the terror truly expands beyond just individual torment. It becomes a broader societal threat.
The Bloofer Lady.
Exactly. Children in Hampstead start going missing at night, found later with small wounds in the throat, leading to that chilling name, the Bloofer Lady. This is a truly horrifying turn, isn't it?
It's a horrific inversion of life, of innocence. This transformation of the innocent, beloved Lucy into a predatory, undead creature. It's not just death, it's a profound corruption of the soul.
Yeah.
Turning a cherished friend into this monstrous entity that preys on the most innocent, the most vulnerable children. It forces the scientific minds, especially Seward, to confront a reality that utterly defies all their medical training, all rational understanding. It's the ultimate uncanny. The familiar made utterly horrifying. A beloved figure twisted into a fiend, stalking the very children she would have protected in life.
Van Helsing, though, he's seen these patterns. He understands the undead. He manages to convince Seward, Arthur, and Quincy to visit Lucy's tomb, though it takes a lot of persuading to get them past their disbelief in his, well, wild theories.
The resistance of the rational mind.
And there, they discover the coffin is empty. That's the moment of undeniable proof.
Shocking, irrefutable proof of the vampiric transformation, forces the rational men to accept this unimaginable reality that shatters their scientific worldview. And Van Helsing's earlier move, removing the garlic from the tomb, a traditional ward, was calculated.
Why?
Oh, yes, a strategic move to draw her out. Shows his profound practical understanding of the undead's habits, their vulnerabilities, knowledge gleaned from years of deep study, way beyond conventional science.
So they then confront the Bloofer Lady herself. Her eyes blaze with unholy light. Her face has this voluptuous smile, a perverse mockery of her former beauty.
Horrifying.
She behaves with shocking cold-bloodedness, flings a child she'd grab, callous as a devil, and then tries to lure Arthur, her grieving fiancé, with these seductive, chilling tones. Come to me, Arthur. Leave these others and come to me. My arms are hungry for you. Jonathan notes her voice had something of the tingling of glass when struck. This scene is just distressing on so many levels.
Indeed. Lucy's corrupted beauty, her seductive yet demonic call to Arthur, her utter lack of maternal instinct with that child. They're visceral illustrations of the undead's complete depravity, their inhumanity.
That voice description.
The tingling of glass. It emphasizes her unnatural, piercing allure, a sound that's beautiful yet horrifying, like something brittle, dangerous. It forces the protagonists into this terrible choice between their love for the memory of Lucy and their duty to destroy this monster. An agonizing decision that underscores the profound, soul-corrupting evil they face. This is the peak of the uncanny. The beloved, twisted into a fiend, forcing an unbearable choice between sentiment and salvation.
Arthur, guided by Van Helsing, performs that agonizing duty, driving a stake through Lucy's heart. Her body writhes, her face quivers, then she lies still. Miraculously, when they look again, all Lucy's loveliness had come back to her in death.
A moment of grace.
Yeah. Van Helsing declares with immense relief, reverence even, for she is not a grinning devil now. No longer she is the devil's undead. She is God's true dead, whose soul is with him.
It truly is a moment of grace. That act, which Van Helsing later called a form of euthanasia, is necessary. Harrowing, but a ritual. And a profound act of compassion, in a way. Lucy's restoration to her former beauty and death signifies the reclaiming of her soul, provides this powerful moment amidst the horror, and it solidifies the group's purpose. They have to fight this evil, save souls, marks the formation of their dedicated band of hunters, now truly united against this common supernatural enemy. They faced the uncanny and found a way, however brutal, to redeem its victim. The hunt for Dracula, a global pursuit.
Okay, so with Lucy's soul redeemed, their pact sealed in blood and grief, the group, now united in this grim purpose, shifts their entire focus to the ultimate source of all their sorrow, Count Dracula.
The mission becomes clear.
Van Helsing states it with absolute resolve, to find out the author of all this our sorrow and to stamp him out. But he warns them, it'll be a long task and a difficult, and there is danger in it and pain. This really elevates the story, doesn't it, from reactive defense to proactive pursuit.
Absolutely. Their collective belief, forged through those traumatic, uncanny experiences with Lucy, becomes their strength. It propels them forward. And Van Helsing then lays out the true, terrifying nature of the undead.
Yeah, what does he say?
He explains they live on and cannot die by mere passing of the time. He can flourish one that he can fatten on the blood of the living. Even more, we have seen amongst us that he can even grow younger. This reveals the terrifying scale of the threat. An evolving, immortal predator that grows stronger with each victim, defies all conventional understanding of life and death.
He also details the methods for destroying them, right? Ancient methods, but now validated by what they saw with Lucy. Measures the blend folklore with grim practicality.
Exactly. The branch of wild rose on his coffin keep him that he move not from it. A sacred bullet fired into the coffin kill him so that he be true dead. And as for the stake through him, or the cut off head that giveth rest, we have seen it with our eyes.
You have seen it with our eyes. Powerful.
These ancient remedies, validated by the horrific experience with Lucy, blend folklore with grim practicality. They emphasize that while the threat is supernatural, uncanny, the means to combat it involve direct, often brutal physical action. Van Helsing then reveals the Count's historical identity. A voivode Dracula who won his name against the Turk. A man of mighty brain and that iron resolution, known as the cleverest and the most cunning, as well as the bravest.
So not just a monster, but a brilliant historical figure gone wrong.
Precisely. It underscores the formidable nature of their adversary, highlights his intellect, his strategic prowess, makes him a villain of immense historical and personal power, not just some simple creature.
And Jonathan Harker, despite everything he went through, his trauma, he becomes crucial to the hunt.
Instrumental.
His original diary, painstakingly typed up by Mina, becomes their core intelligence. Armed with that knowledge, he investigates the Count's London properties, the logistics of those 50 cases of common earth to be used for experimental purposes. It's a real contrast, isn't it? Ancient evil versus modern detective work.
It is, and those earth boxes are the Count's vital link to his power, his refuge. They represent his connection to his homeland, his source of strength, a physical tether to his unholy existence.
Right.
Jonathan's precise investigation, tracking the boxes from the Demeter to houses in Carfax, Piccadilly, Mile End, Bermondsey, it showcases the practical, grounded nature of their detective work against the supernatural. And that quote about the rummiest house with dust that thick you might have slept on it, it vividly illustrates the desolate, neglected state of these hidden layers, like dark, forgotten pockets within the bustling modern city.
Then they make a crucial discovery breaking into the Piccadilly house. Find title deeds to the other properties and, really disturbingly, a basin with dirty water which was reddened as if with blood. Further confirmation of his brutal activities right there in London.
That tangible, grisly evidence grounds the supernatural horror in this disturbing, visceral reality, solidifies the team's resolve, leaves no room for doubt about the Count's monstrous presence in the very heart of their city. And Van Helsing then offers this chilling analysis of the Count's evolution, explains he's been creeping into knowledge experimentally.
Learning.
Yes, learning to move the boxes himself, progressing from needing an invitation into homes to manipulating people like Renfield for access. His child brain was growing.
That analysis of Dracula's adaptability is truly terrifying, isn't it? He's not static, not bound by ancient rules you can just list. He's learning, experimenting, evolving his methods through contact with the modern world. That makes him an even more formidable foe, highlights the intellectual strategic challenge he poses. How does this idea of a learning monster change the stakes for them and for how we think about classic horror villains?
Oh, it dramatically raises the stakes. And it's a profound subversion of the typical monster trope. Dracula isn't just a force of nature, he's a being capable of strategic thought, of adapting his ancient evil to modern society. His efforts to learn new tongues, social life, politics, the law, the finance, the science, they underline his strategic depth, his long-term planning, makes him a truly intelligent adversary, not just a creature of instinct. This taps right into those deep Victorian anxieties about social infiltration, the erosion of traditional values. It makes the uncanny element of Dracula even more potent. He's not just supernatural, he's a sophisticated, evolving threat, capable of subtly corrupting the very systems of society.
The unwilling bridge, an ultimate weapon.
And then Mina Harker, who's been tirelessly typing, organizing all these disparate documents, putting the puzzle together, she becomes this unwilling yet absolutely pivotal link to the Count.
Her role becomes central, tragically so.
After that terrifying night at the hotel, the Count forces her to drink his blood, then drinks from her. She bears that red blotch on her forehead, a visible mark of their forced, unholy communion. It's a moment of profound violation, a terrible, uncanny merging.
It's arguably the most intimate and horrific violation inflicted by the Count in the whole story. It marks Mina not just physically, but spiritually, creates this shared psychic link that's both a curse and, unexpectedly, a crucial tool for the hunters.
Right.
It's this terrifying bond tying her to the very monster they hunt, an involuntary, unholy intimacy forcing her into the heart of the uncanny. Her purity is defiled, but her strength is revealed through this very violation.
But this psychic link, it becomes a double-edged sword. Van Helsing, with his deep understanding of the occult, quickly realizes they can use Mina's connection to track the Count.
Turn the curse into a weapon.
Exactly. Through hypnotic trances, induced at sunrise and sunset when the Count is weakest, when he has to return to his Earth, Mina can perceive his location. Her descriptions become vital intelligence, like lapping waves and rushing water, darkness and favoring winds, or later, creaking wood and roaring water as he travels by sea and river.
Mina's ability to act as a teacher, as our eyes were we were blinded, is extraordinary. It highlights her immense courage, her profound self-sacrifice. She willingly subjects herself to these terrifying visions for the sake of the hunt.
Yeah.
The detailed descriptions from her trances provide vital, real-time intelligence for the relentless pursuit, transforms her painful vulnerability into their greatest strategic advantage. This is a profound aha moment for the team. Shows how they overcome that information overload by leveraging this unexpected, deeply personal source to track the elusive, uncanny foe.
But the threat to Mina is immense. She risks becoming undead herself if the Count escapes. And in this heartbreaking moment, she bravely makes an honorable suicide pact, asks Jonathan and Van Helsing to kill her if she transforms, prefers death to becoming a monster like Lucy. That act really solidifies her heroism, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That act of profound self-sacrifice elevates Mina to truly heroic status. It underscores the ultimate stakes of their battle, not just life, but the very soul, hers and by extension, humanity's. This emotional depth adds significant weight to the narrative, emphasizes the moral responsibility of the hunters, the profound soul-corrupting evil they're committed to eradicating. It's a chilling reminder that the cost of failing isn't just death, it's a fate far, far worse.
So the team Van Helsing, Seward, Jonathan, Lord Godalming, Arthur, and Quincy Morris, they launch this relentless global pursuit, tracking the Count's final Earthbox, realizing he's fleeing back to his castle in Transylvania by sea, on the Tsarina Catherine from Varna to Galatz.
This final global pursuit is a desperate race against time, against fate. The division of forces, some by train, some by steam launch, some on horseback, demonstrates their coordinated, multi-pronged effort to intercept him before he can regain his full power in his homeland,
Right.
before he can fully reroot himself in that ancient power. And those chilling descriptions from the ship's captain, calling the journey no canny, feeling like the Dale himself were blawing on your sail. They reinforce that pervasive supernatural dread, even among hardened sailors. Emphasizes the extraordinary nature of their quarry, a being so powerful it seems to distort even the elements. The climax and aftermath.
Okay, the chase is relentless. A desperate race against time, against the Count's cunning, all guided by Mina's increasingly detailed hypnotic reports. The team converges near the Borgo Pass, the very place Jonathan first encountered the Count. Brings the whole terrifying story full circle right back to the source of the uncanny.
That return to the initial side of horror emphasizes that cyclical nature, good versus evil, the arduous, circular journey of understanding and confronting the threat. It heightens the tension as they close in, returning to the very heart of his dominion to face him. A symbolic confrontation on his home ground.
The final confrontation happens with the Count's uncanny allies, the gypsies transporting his last box of earth. It's a fierce, brutal battle. Ancient determination versus modern resolve, and the gypsy leader, in this desperate, non-verbal gesture, points to the setting sun, then to the castle, signaling the Count's vulnerability in daylight, his desperate need for refuge as their window closes. That timing is critical.
It's an incredibly powerful moment of non-verbal communication. Reinforces the critical timing of their attack. Highlights the Count's inherent weakness between noon and sunset, making their timing absolutely crucial for a successful strike.
Yeah.
It also underscores that even his allies understand the fundamental rules of his existence, the fleeting nature of his power outside darkness. The stakes are immense. If that sun sets, the Count regains his full strength, and their quest could fail.
Jonathan Harker, with his kukri knife, and Quincy Morris, with his bowie knife, they attack the box containing the Count. The nails drew with a quick screeching sound, and the top of the box was thrown back. Jonathan gets one last glimpse of the Count's bloated face, blood-stained and fixed with a grin of malice.
A final hideous image.
Quincy, though fatally wounded by a gypsy in the fight, heroically delivers the final blow, plunges his bowie knife into the Count's heart moments before the sun completely sets.
This is the dramatic crescendo, the moment of ultimate release, victory forged in desperate struggle. The gruesome details of the Count's appearance, bloated, blood-stained, maliciously grinning, a final confirmation of his true nature. The immediate crumbling to native dust upon death, and the heroic, selfless sacrifice of Quincy Morris. It brings a definitive, absolute end to the physical threat.
His last words.
Quincy's poignant last words. It was worth it if I have saved you and Arthur and dear Madamina. They cement his role as a true hero, underscore the profound stakes of their victory, the deep bonds forged through shared peril. It's a powerful testament to the human spirit against unimaginable horror.
And the Count's body just instantly melts away into native dust upon death, a final horrifying confirmation of his unnatural existence.
That rapid dissolution confirms the supernatural nature of his existence, the absolute finality of his destruction, reinforces the idea he wasn't merely a man, but an entity sustained by dark, unholy forces. Now truly vanquished, returned to the earth he drew power from, leaving nothing but, well, a lingering memory of dread.
And in the end, we learn this fascinating meta-commentary about the story we've just explored, this whole deep dive. It's composed almost entirely of personal documents, typewritten notes, diaries, letters. The narrative closes reflecting there's hardly one authentic document, just a mass of typewriting.
It's a powerful meta-commentary on the nature of truth, of evidence, especially when confronting the supernatural, the uncanny. It emphasizes that this epic, terrifying struggle against evil was meticulously documented piece by piece by those who experienced it.
Right.
Their collective memory, their shared trauma, transformed into this collective, verifiable record, underscores the power of narrative, of shared experience, in confronting and ultimately overcoming the unimaginable. It's a testament to that human need to make sense of and record even the most profound horrors. Outro.
So we've tracked Jonathan Harker's terrifying journey, witnessed Lizzie Westenra's tragic, uncanny fate, unraveled that unsettling connection with Renfield, and finally joined the determined, desperate hunt for Count Dracula. It's a tale that plunges us right into the depths of human fear, but also shows the incredible resilience of those who face unimaginable, unnatural evil.
What really strikes me is how this story, told through these intimate personal accounts, forces us to question the very boundaries of belief, of reality. You know, in a world drowning in information, where skepticism is often the default, sometimes the most profound, the most unsettling truths are found in those details that defy logic, that plunge us right into the uncanny. This deep dive really shows us how ordinary individuals, through courage, adaptation, unwavering belief even, can overcome the most extraordinary and truly uncanny of threats.
And maybe the most lasting thought isn't just, the monster being defeated, but the sheer cost of that victory and that lingering question of how such darkness could ever exist, or if it might again. It truly makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other monsters might be out there waiting in the shadows that our modern minds are simply not equipped to comprehend, or maybe even just believe?
That is a powerful question to ponder indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the very heart of the Dracula story.
Until next time, keep digging into those fascinating facts and stay curious. This has been the Uncanny Valley Podcast.